So I decided to ask ChatGPT what it thought about the dangers of index universal life insurance. Obviously, if you watch my channel, you know I've done a lot of videos critiquing and educating on how index universal life really works, showing it as one of the most misrepresented financial products on the face of the earth. So for this video, what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna actually go through and read to you exactly what ChatGPT has to say about the dangers of index universal life, and then kind of give my breakdown about my opinions of what ChatGPT had to say. So if you haven't already, make sure you subscribe and hit the bell. That way you're notified every time I launch a new video, because I got videos like this coming out every single day. Let's go. What's going on, cash flow hackers? It's Chris with Life 180, and this video we're going to be going through ChatGPT and what it has to say about index universal life. So in a second now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to read the script. I'm going to read what ChatGPT has to say about index universal life. I'll kind of give my breakdown, give my feedback at the end of all this, and maybe actually in between the points that it has to say, because I think it comes up with 6 different points, 6 different areas that index universal life is dangerous. So at the end of each one, I'll give my feedback, my opinion, and we'll go from there. So let's do it. Okay, here is the ChatGPT script when I ask, what are the dangers of index universal life? Index universal life, IUL, insurance policies have both potential benefits and certain risks or considerations. Here are some of the dangers or potential drawbacks associated with IUL policy. Number 1, market volatility. IUL policies are tied to the performance of an underlying stock market index. While this provides the potential for higher returns, it also exposes the policy's cash value to market volatility. If the index performs poorly, the cash value growth may be limited or even result in a loss. All right, so my feedback on that is actually really positive on what ChatGPT has to say. I wasn't sure how positive or not positive ChatGPT would be about IUL. So the market volatility thing is something that most IUL agents kind of position as one of the benefits of IUL. And because they say you can't lose money due to market loss. And at the end of the day, you can lose money due to market loss. Now, you don't lose it because you're losing money in the market value, but when you have a 0% year in an IUL policy, you actually can, especially if you're in your retirement years and you have a lot of policy loans out already, what happens is you use these index loans typically inside of an IUL, and I've shown videos that show in retirement how you can actually lose 10% of your net cash value of your policy with just a 0% year. So in fact, there's more risk in an IUL in some cases than there is actually in investing directly in the index itself. So it's something to be concerned about, something that most people overlook, most people, I guess, downplay on the agent side, and it's something that if you are considering, buying one of these for yourself, you really need to take into consideration. And if you are interested in learning about this more, I've got a full illustration review right here that you can watch and that you can go through, and it explains the dangers and how you can lose money, especially during retirement, especially when you have policy loans out against these policies, that will help you understand more. So that is number 1. Market volatility is the number 1 risk. All right, so the number 2 risk that ChatGPT has to say about index universal life are the caps, participation rates, and the fees. It says that IUL policies often come with caps on the maximum percentage of index gains that will be credited to the cash value of your policy. There may also be participation rates that determine the proportion of the index gains that will be credited. Additionally, IUL policies tend to have higher fees compared to traditional whole life policies, which can reduce the overall potential growth or overall growth potential. Okay, so here's my feedback on this. I talk about this all the time. The cap rates, the par rates, the fees in the policy, all that is true. Now, the crazy part is one of the biggest things that I get for kickback from all these IUL agents is that whole life is more expensive than IUL. Even ChatGPT, one of the best AIs on the face of the earth, sat here and told you and wrote out that index universal life is more expensive than whole life insurance when you look at the runaway fees. It is not a coincidence. This is because if you do enough digging and you get off social media and you stop listening to the hype of all these index universal life influencers, you realize that whole life insurance is a much better policy over the life of the policy. Now, full transparency, IUL will have lower cost of insurance at the very front end of the policy. But if you're buying this, the intention of buying the policy is for your entire life, for your whole life, right? And that's where you have to look at the actual fees. It's not over the period of your first 10 years in the policy if you're young, but over the extension of your entire life of the policy. And what do the fees look like in retirement? Because that's when you're going to plan to utilize it for tax free income in retirement, right? Like that's what you're going to do. You want to have it for the death benefit forever. You want to have access to this money during your entire life, and you need to understand what are the fees later in your life. So that is number 2, and I am excited actually now to see that ChatGPT had to say this about IUL. Now, full transparency also, I hadn't read these. I just literally did a query in ChatGPT, and I plugged it in, and I wanted to read this being fully clear, fully authentic, and being fully surprised so I can have an authentic response, and I'm getting excited. All right, so the third danger ChatGPT says about Index Universal Life is complexity and lack of transparency. Understanding the various features, calculations, and limitations in an IUL policy can be challenging. The policy's performance is influenced by factors such as crediting methods, index performance calculations, and policy expenses. This complexity can make it harder to evaluate the true long-term benefits and risk associated with the policy. All right, so this is one of my favorite things to talk about IUL is the fact that it's one of the most misrepresented financial products on the face of the earth because it is a highly complex financial tool that is sold as a very simplistic solution to a lot of people's problems, trying to get people to view it as a rich man's Roth or an alternative to a 401k and trying to position it like it's some safe solution to getting out of the government account of a 401k and qualified accounts, qualified plans. The facts are this is a highly risky product. Agents are not super transparent about what the fees and expenses are, how they work. They just show illustrations typically and make you believe that the policy will perform according to the illustration because that illustration is done on a conservative basis, and the reality is it's not done on a conservative basis at all. In fact, most illustrations have more than a 50% chance of performing worse than what you're shown, and this is one of the reasons that I've created the IUL Challenge, is to show people that during the greatest bull run of all time, we have these policies, if they're supposed to get the upside potential, as we talked about, if they're supposed to receive that, well, we just had the greatest bull run of all time, so we should have had a bull market, right? We should have had these policies outperforming how they were illustrated over the last decade because you should be kind of capturing that upside potential. But I've offered $2,000 to any agent to be able to win that challenge for a policy that's a decade old. And once again, I care about what these do over the long run, not what they do in the next year or two, right? I've challenged people. I've given them an offer to give them $2,000 to just show me an illustration that has outperformed the original illustration that they sold it according to. Not one agent has been able to do that to this point in time, and it's been over a year. So I'm doubling down on this, and this is why I create this content, to educate people to do more research. And once again, don't just take my word for it. Do your own research, dig deeper. I've got a whole playlist that explains how Index Universal Life works. So absolutely, I think it's one of the best education resources on the internet as far as understanding Index Universal Life. And at the same time, I encourage you to go to other resources like Life Product Review, Bobby Samuelson, another amazing resource that anybody can go to learn about Index Universal Life. So that is number 3. So the fourth danger, according to ChatGPT about IUL, is the potential for underperformance. It's interesting. While IUL policies offer the potential for higher returns based on the market performance, there is no guarantee of achieving those returns. If the index performs poorly or experiences prolonged periods of low growth, the cash value accumulation may fall short of expectations. So this is one of the things I say all the time. This just actually goes back off my last point, and I didn't know this was coming, so that's why I kind of talked about the IUL Challenge just a second ago, is the fact that these things do not perform according to expectations because of the fact that one of the earlier dangers is the fact that the cap rates, the par rates, the just the fees inside of the policies can all be changed, and they will be changed to your detriment as a policyholder. They will be. This is history, right? This is what we've got a past proving a track record proving that this is how IULs kind of function. I always kind of say they're just still a financial experiment, and if you look at the financial experiment, IULs were designed initially in 1997. They became really popular in 2009, and that's when they really started to get market share. Just do the research once again. And if you look from 2009 to 2023 right now, all you've seen is worse and worse and worse and worse performance, and worse and worse movement in the fees and the cap rates and the par rates and all these different things. And so if I am looking at putting my money somewhere, I want to put it in somewhere where I'm in control, where the movements and the contract of the policy benefit me, whereas, and that's why I like whole life insurance, whereas with IUL, the fees and the contract benefits the insurance company to have control of my money. It's no different than really putting your money in a 401k and having the government have control of your money until you're 59 and a half. It's being positioned as something different, but it's really not that much different. All right, so the fifth danger, according to Chat GPT about IUL, are misaligned expectations. This is a big one. Some policyholders may have unrealistic expectations about the potential returns of an IUL policy, considering it a pure investment vehicle. It is important to understand that IUL policies primarily serve as life insurance products with a cash value component, and the cash value growth is subject to various factors and limitations. All right, so this is one of my favorite, I keep saying this is one of my favorite. I guess the ChatGPT did a pretty good job on this one, right? Misaligned expectations is a huge deal. This is one of the biggest problems. I always kind of say, whether it's IUL or like Dave Ramsey's advice, one of the biggest challenges that I have in the personal financial space is the fact that most people with their financial strategy, what they're actually doing is not aligned. Their expectations are not aligned in reality with what's actually going to happen. And so that's one of the biggest things that I always try to focus on with and teach our agents at Life 180 to be able to help people with, is to have pure expectations and to really, really understand how money works, what you're going to need to do, and it's probably going to be harder than you think it's going to be. But if you want to achieve the life that you want to live, and if you want to be able to reverse engineer and design that life you want to live, you're going to probably have to put more work into it. And I think one of the reasons that IUL has gotten so much traction, has gotten so much momentum in selling in the marketplace, has nothing to do with the fact that the product is good. It has everything to do with the fact that we got hundreds of thousands of agents out there selling it, and because of the fact that these companies are getting around illustration regulation, and they regulation AG 49B just got released, and with that new regulation update, companies, and that was May 1st, by the way, May 1st, 2023, and companies have already worked on workarounds on their illustration software to make it so they don't have to reduce the rates, reduce the performance to the spirit of what the regulation was created for, right? And when you look at that, and you look at the fact that these insurance companies are implicit in changing and trying to skirt around the regulatory environment, what happens is that trickles down, and now the agents kind of don't do their research, and they believe what they're seeing from the insurance companies, and they don't have enough history in the market. And I fell into this. When I was new into the industry, I sold IUL. For my first 4.5 years in this business, I was a huge IUL advocate because I didn't know what I didn't know. So I understand how agents fall into this trap. But once you learn, once you become more experienced in this business, it is my belief that you have a responsibility as an agent to not seek confirmation bias in what you're doing with IUL, but to seek to understand, to really understand how these products work, to how they impact people, to look at your policy reviews over a period of time, over 3, 4, 5 years. And when you start to see that these things are not performing, and you compare those policy reviews to the original illustration that you designed, and you realize that they're not performing up to standards, and as time goes on, especially with the last couple of years that we've seen, you're going to notice that what's going to happen is I think you have a responsibility to realize, like, oh my gosh, maybe this isn't what I thought it was, and that's what happened to me. That's why I made the shift, and that is why I'm such an advocate for whole life insurance over index universal life insurance at this point in time. So in summary here, one of the things I said, there were 6 dangers. I guess there were 5 dangers. Like I said, I didn't read it ahead of time, but it got done with a 5, and that was it. And now there's a little bit of a summary. When I looked it over, I guess I thought the summary when I was looking at, because I just didn't want to read it. I just looked at the bullet points. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to read the summary at the end, or like whatever the outro is from the Chat GPT script. So let's do that. All right, so here's how Chat GPT ends off this description. It's crucial to thoroughly research and understand the specific terms and conditions of an IUL policy before considering it as part of your financial strategy. Consulting with a qualified financial advisor who specializes in life insurance and understands the nuances of IUL policies can help you make an informed decision based on your individual circumstances and goals. And I think one of the things that's important to understand there is you got to work with an IUL agent who understands the nuances of these IUL policies, and most agents don't. It's a sad, sad state of existence right now in this business. The fact that we have so many uneducated IUL agents that say they're educated, that think they're educated because they're only educated on the positives of the IULs. They don't understand the actual nuanced inner workings of how these things function. And so that is it. Hopefully you found value in this video. I'm going to be trying to do some more videos like this, more stuff on the Chat GPT. I'm going to do a little series on what Chat GPT thinks about life insurance as a whole. If you're fascinated, if you're interested in this, I'd be honored if you would subscribe and hit the bell. That way you're notified every time I launch a new video. I got videos like this coming out every single day. And that is it for now. Till next time, have a blessed, inspirational day. I'm here in the Dominican Republic for the next couple months. And I'm excited about it. We got a lot of cool projects going on. Can't wait to talk to you more about them. Stay tuned. It's going to be cool. Talk to you soon.